Chelsea fans, what have we just witnessed? After that embarrassing 2-0 defeat to Ipswich, Chelsea finished 2024 on a low. Chelsea losing to 19th in the league is just unacceptable, and it was an embarrassing performance. A lot of Chelsea fans were screaming out for changes in the squad, and tonight we got what we wished for. Chelsea and Enzo Maresca got exposed tonight, and it is blatantly obvious where we need to improve. However, there are some positives. So in this video, we're going over the 5 things that we learned from Ipswich 2, Chelsea 0. Did you know that 90% of the people watching this video right now are currently not subscribed to the channel? So make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you're a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. Make sure you join the community, and let's get into the video. The first thing I want to talk about is Axel Sassi. This guy is not good enough to play for Chelsea. Now, for you guys that have been following me on this YouTube account and on my TikTok account will know that I am not a fan of Benoit Badiashile and Axel Sassi, and I'm extremely critical of these players because they're not good enough. We saw enough of them last year and the mistakes they've gotten them. They're not consistent enough with their performances. However, I am very fair and I give them credit where it's due. But tonight, Axel Sassi does not get credit. The second goal, purely his fault. What was he thinking with that bad pass? He was terrible all game. Couldn't keep control of the ball. Couldn't make any decent passes. He was caught out of position time and time again. I don't understand what Maresca is seeing in Sassi to use him as an option. Now, I will say the whole purpose of using Sassi as a right back is that Cucurella would invert and it would be a back 3 of Sassi, Tosin and Colwell. Now, I will say, because I put my hands up and say this before, Sassi is an out-and-out centre-back. Normally is a pretty safe option. He's not normally as bad as he was tonight. But my God, he got exposed time and time again. Ipswich came out the blocks, they pressed us intensely, and they worked our defence, and they got the result. They got the result. That first goal, Sassi was caught out. Obviously, he didn't make the challenge. Jorgenson did. I'm still yet to see any contact from that penalty decision, by the way. Extremely soft, borderline dive. Want to say it's a dive. Game's the game. Delap wins the penalty and scores it. Fair play to him. Sassi was just absolutely horrendous. I don't want to see him play for Chelsea. And there was rumours that his situation is something to monitor in the January transfer window. Pack his bags, get him gone. I'll even drive him to his next destination free of charge. This guy is awful. I don't care what anyone says. He needs to go. The second thing I want to talk about is Enzo Maresca made the changes that we were all screaming for. This is actually a green box for Maresca. And you may be thinking, Jay, how is this a green box? We made too many changes. We got exposed. The reason it's a green box is because he listened. He could visually see, right, things need to be shaken up here. We weren't good enough against Everton, even though we got the draw, and we weren't good enough against Fulham, where we lost. Things need to change. A lot of people were screaming out for Jorgenson to start, Nkunku to get a start, Felix to get minutes, Gusto to be dropped because he hasn't played well for the last couple of games. We all got what we wished for. You've got to praise Enzo Maresca for that. He actually changed the squad. Now I've got people in my comment section, whether it's TikTok or YouTube, after the hundreds a day I was getting after the Fulham game saying we need to make these changes. Jackson isn't good enough. We need Nkunku. Felix needs more minutes, or etc., 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 etc. Now people are saying, why did they start? Why are we playing up Nkunku up front? Should have backed Jackson. You can't win, and Enzo Maresca can't win. We have a deep squad. We don't have any Conference League games, no cup competitions games for a little while. The rotation of the squad was valid, and to give these players minutes. They had their opportunity to shine, and it backfired. But on Maresca's point, we literally were screaming for all these changes. He made them. That's a green box for me because he was like, cool, things need to change. Let's be proactive and change them. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result, and on any other day, it would have worked in our favour and people would have been saying, see, we told you so, we needed to see these players play. However, we will get onto Jorgenson a little bit later in the video because I do think he actually played very well. But for everyone that's coming after Maresca because we made too many changes, we made our bed and we have to lie on it. The third thing I want to talk about is we are not good enough going forward. This is getting slightly worrying. We've scored 1 goal in the last 3 games. Now, normally you'd say, okay, Chelsea is struggling to score goals. When you look at this season so far, we have been scoring hatfuls of goals, game in, game out, no matter what competition. But in the last 3 games, it has severely dried up and we need to address this. Now, you could say, as the season goes on, teams are starting to find out and suss out Maresca's tactics, know how to play against us, know how to defend against us. However, we have played teams with low blocks. We have eventually broken them down and got results. We have scored goals. We scored 1 goal tonight, which was offside. We hit the post. Palmer was unlucky any other day that goes in. So that's 2 goals. but they didn't count, so it doesn't matter. 1 goal in 3 games, the alarm bells start ringing. We go away to Crystal Palace in a few days, and historically, we do not win at Selhurst Park. We have, I'm not saying we haven't, but historically it's a very tough game for us. And I can't see us scoring a lot of goals away from home because our away record isn't that great either. It was starting to get better across the season, but after tonight, back to square one with our away record. It's just worrying. We've not scored enough goals. And it's not just that, we're not good enough going forward. We can't break teams down who are playing a low block. We are struggling against it. Is this a case of teams knowing how to defend against us? Is this a case of us kind of losing that mojo, scoring so many goals too quickly and then having a bit of a dry spell? We shall soon find out in the upcoming games. But for me, it's a red box that we are not good enough going forward. We get the ball forward, we keep the possession, and we can't create anything with it. And this is something we've struggled with in the last few years, albeit for longer periods. And this season it's been a very short period because we have scored a hatful of goals game in, game out. But the last 3 games now, we don't want to make it 4 games in a row because then it does really start to, alarm bells start ringing. But for the last 3 games, we've scored 1 goal in 3, and it is something we need to take a look at. The fourth thing I want to talk about is we are in a process. This is something to remember. We are going to drop points. We are going to lose games. And this game and the Fulham game hurts. Trust me, I'm feeling it. I did a live watch along on my TikTok channel. The link is in the description if you want to follow me over there. I will be doing live watch alongs here on this YouTube channel in 2025. Regardless, I was doing a live watch along, and the amount of people that were saying Maresca out, we're not good enough, we're not going to win anything, we're not in the top 4, we've bottled it, embarrassing, we should be winning. I can see what they're saying to a degree. The Maresca out is wild to me. That's wild. Not going to win anything. That's wild. Not going to get top 4. I still think we can get top 4. That was the original goal at the start of the season. However, we are in a process. Maresca has only been here 6 months. This is a young squad, and he's said many, many times, we're not in a title race. We are learning on the job. Maresca hasn't managed in the Premier League, and he's done a very good job so far. If we'd have won tonight, we'd have gone back up to 2nd. You compare this to last year, we were sat 12th, 13th in the league. And I've had people in my comment section saying we were better off with Poch than we are with Maresca, which is wild to me. We are drastically better. We have an identity, we have a system, we have a formation, we have a culture that's being developed week in, week out. This is a long-term project, and we are already basically overperforming to where we were expected to be at this stage under Enzo Maresca. So we need to calm down with the reactionary stuff. Okay, I know we are very hot-headed about losing to 19th in the league. I get it. Trust me, I'm fuming. I really, really am. But we have to take a step back, take a deep breath, and realise that we are in a process and we're only 6 months in under Maresca. Things will get better. And before we get into the 5th and final thing that we learned from Ipswich 2, Chelsea 0, I have 2 honourable mentions. And the first honourable mention is Enzo Maresca did make substitutes. This is something I was bombarded with in my comment section after the Fulham game. And even myself, I was scratching my head. We made 1 substitute in the 90-minute period against Fulham. And people were saying, you have a bench, use it. Well, today he used his substitutes. Unfortunately, they couldn't make that much of an impact on the game. Madueke came off, Jackson came on, Sancho came on, Neto came on. We made substitutes throughout the game and relatively early, for long enough for them to make an impact. Unfortunately, they couldn't change the result, and we ended up losing 2-0, which, again, saying that out loud is wild. But we have to give Maresca a green box for this, because this is something that a lot of fans were very frustrated with in the last game, and immediately he turned back to what he was doing earlier on in the season. We've been very proactive, saying this doesn't work, change him, this doesn't work, change him, this doesn't work, change him. So we have to give him credit for that. This is something we want to see on a consistent basis. The only gripe I have with the substitutes is, yes, we were inverting from the left and we had the Sassi tucking into that back 3, but when things weren't working, we've got 3 right backs on the bench. We should probably start using 1 and change the system a little bit just to see if Ipswich can cope with something a bit more dynamic, a bit different. We had Ashimpong, we had Gusto and Reece James. I wasn't expecting Reece James to come on and get loads of minutes, but there's 3 right backs on the bench and we didn't utilise any of them at any point during the game. My only gripe. However, again, not splitting hairs or anything. He made lots of substitutes when people were calling out for it. Has to be praised for it. Unfortunately, on any other day, the substitutes would have made an impact and we'd have got a result. But because it didn't today, people are going to say, what's going on? It's embarrassing. I get it, but Enzo Maresca did make the substitutes. Green box. And the second honourable mention is Jorgenson actually had a good game. I mentioned this previously in the video and I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So many fans were screaming, myself included, we want to see Jorgenson in between the six in the Premier League to see how he performs. And I thought he had a very good game outside of conceding 2 goals, which I know sounds stupid from the surface. When you look at it on the surface, you go, oh, Sanchez concedes for fun, so does Jorgenson, get a new goalkeeper. However, when Jorgenson had the ball at his feet, I felt so much more calm and confident with Jorgenson with the ball at his feet. So much easier, so much nicer, so much smoother with his distribution. You can tell he is a ball-playing goalkeeper. And outside of that, like I mentioned earlier with the penalty, I'm still yet to see any contact that Jorgenson made. I still think it was a dive. I think he was unfairly done there. It's very soft to give. Game's the game. Delap wins it, scores it. Cool. Credit where it's due. But on Jorgenson's side, very unfair to have that go against him. He shouldn't have dived in the way he did. When I saw it in real time, I was like, what are you doing? But again, through the replays, I still yet to see any contact. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything he could do for the second goal. It was a very tidy finish from Amari Hutchinson. Can't really complain about that. But he made some massive saves. Near post, far post, collecting the ball, being dominating from corners. I think all round he had a very good game. He was just very unlucky with the goals he conceded. I never expect a goalkeeper to save a penalty. It's always in the attacker's favour. Usually when the attacker misses, it's more on them, or the keeper saves it because it's a poor penalty. Unless you have one of them saves where it's just outrageous and you save a real good quality penalty and then you're like, wow, that's a great save. I think Jorgenson had a very good game overall, and I would actually like to see him play more minutes in the Premier League. Like I said, Ipswich play very well, but overall, man, I think Jorgenson had a very good game. I think it needs to be highlighted. It was good to see him play, good to see him with the ball at his feet and distributing it nicely. Unlucky with the goals he conceded, but overall, good game for him. And the fifth and final thing that we learned from Ipswich 2, Chelsea 0, is Enzo Maresca doesn't have a plan B. Now, for me, this is an amber box because these are early signs he doesn't have a plan B. People have mentioned it earlier in the season where we may have got draws or we've not, we maybe just got over the line, but people are like, does he have a plan B? Leicester fans were screaming this at Chelsea fans in pre-season when we signed him, saying he doesn't have a plan B. When it's not going his way, he won't change anything. He's too stubborn and you'll drop points. Tonight, I think, was and the Fulham game were 2 good examples of how Enzo Maresca needs to change things up in-game. Now, I don't want to knock his in-game management too much. I think it's fairly good. I think it's pretty decent from what we've seen so far this season. Just in this little dip in these last 3 games where we've picked up 2 losses and a draw, things are highlighted so much more. Now, yes, Chelsea didn't play well. We just didn't have a good game. We looked passive. We looked lethargic. We just look slow moving the ball. We get caught out too many times, and Ipswich were fantastic. So again, that enhances things. But like I said earlier, we had 3 right backs on the bench. Change the system to incorporate them. You must have a plan B when things aren't working. We were unlucky from hitting the post. If Felix was onside or Jackson was onside, he missed a sitter. But if he was onside, maybe that could have gone in, or Palmer's attempt goes in, or Felix was onside and that goes in. All of a sudden, it's 2-2-3-2, right? Unfortunately, those things didn't happen. So you have to be proactive and change things in the game. And I feel like it is something we need to keep an eye on and we need to monitor. Does Enzo Maresca have a plan B? Is it a case of we have so many players, we just rotate the squad and we play the same system? Or is it a case of, these guys are defending very well, very compact. How about we change the system slightly, draw them out a bit and try something different because we have the players that are good enough to play multiple systems during the game. We play with the inverting. We've had Caicedo inverting and doing his thing from right back into midfield and inverting from the right-hand side and changing things. But for me, it has to be highlighted that it looks like Enzo Maresca doesn't have a plan B, and I want him to prove me wrong. So those are the 5 things that we learned from Ipswich 2, Chelsea 0. Do you agree with my analysis or do you disagree? Did I miss anything? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. Currently, I'm very angry, frustrated, just like a lot of Chelsea fans that we've lost. It's also very embarrassing that we've lost to 19th in the table. We now move to Selhurst Park, where again, historically, we don't really win. We have very difficult games against Crystal Palace, and they're going to be up for it knowing what type of form we are currently in. However, we move, clean slate, we stay positive, we trust the process, and hopefully we can pick up the 3 points. But that's just my opinion. If you have watched this far to the end of the video, there'll be a thumbnail that pops up on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.